but not as brokener as he is over in the future patch.
Yeah.
We will talk about how he's the brokenest next week.
Yeah, he's going to be mega broken. And see this ban that happened first up for Jin Air, that is what's to be expected next week as well. Shen and Lulu are going to be the first bans here from Kingzone, so definitely a respect ban to Grace, who played the Lulu very well.
Or a coverage ban for a first pick Kled. Because it was the Lulu Tahm Kench duo that negated the power. And also, if you think about it, a indirect nerf to Teddy's ability to solo carry because he can't have a lot of movement speed and shields in the front of the team.
Yeah, that's true. The Lulu was definitely a huge part of how Teddy was able to play frontline Rise. Might be playing something different this time around, though. Remember, last time these two teams met, it was the Draven game that Teddy almost managed to get off the ground with. Kingzone, their final ban to come in here as they've been focusing on the bottom side and mid, I guess, with the Lulu. But Darius going to be taken away. Is it first pick Mundo time, Papa Smithy?
Unfortunately, it's loading up for a first round Mundo. As Jin Air, you'd imagine would ban Nocturne, but maybe, just maybe, Umti says, I can counter jungle that. We'll wait and see if Umti wants to play with fire. That's the featured matchup for me, the two aggressive junglers on their day. Can be a solo carry or maybe a solo loss, depending on how things go. They're really thinking about it. They will eventually ban the Nocturne.
Yeah, Nocturne to be taken away. I thought like the only way that you could really go against is by picking Camille Galio in the same round or something like that. But you leave so many things available. Sejuani being one of them, as Umti's like, oh god, I have to play Trundle. This is the worst.
Could play Kindred also.
Hey, that's true. That's the new matchup that has come in. It's not always Sejuani Trundle these days.
I think Trundle is definitely the measured choice, and I imagine it will come, but I'm ready for the different ones. Will Sowan just say, screw it, Mundo, because we've seen a lot of first-round Mundo, and the Darius spanned away. Kingzone gave up a lot of flex picks to make this happen. The Swain, very frequent first pick yesterday, and of course, in general, patch 8.13 will be taken by Jin Air to open up things.
Rakan is available as well if Nova wants to go towards it. Probably not wanting to leave Xayah Rakan available just due to their flexibility. Haven't seen the funnel since we've been back in the LCK. However, still is a possibility as Gragas with the buffs being considered now for Jin Air, but I like this one way more. Feels like it fits into the wheelhouse of our mate Umti.
Honor system has been enacted in terms of the funnel. Apparently no one's allowed to do it anymore, and I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, that's it. Gone.
Enough of that silly stuff. It's more of the Kled, please, is something I would also like.
Oh, it's just going to get locked in straight away. We'll see whether this one's going to go to BDD or whether Khan once again is going to pop off on the pick.
It's going mid!
It looks like BDD's picking it. Look, Kingzone just don't care about flex picks. They just care about flexing their muscles, and they're doing it right now with the Kled mid to debut.
How many games of Kled does it take for us to forget Rogue Warriors?
Well, I think it reminds us every time, Papa.
No,
this
but
is not
the players,
how it works.
This is how you work out your frustrations. You play it on stage until it's a Kingzone pick, not a Rogue Warriors pick.
Well, they're going to try and make it one as Renekton to be locked in. Okay, Sowan, you want to kick the crap out of the Mundo in the top lane. It might be difficult as the game goes on, but I can imagine the first few levels are going to feel good, especially with Umti able to influence the matchup.
This is definitely one of those dog matchups where you sit back and try and cleaver minions and get frustrated when the Renekton interrupts and catches the cleaver as that was trained for a big cannon minion. Very big control matchup for the Renekton. We'll see how much damage he goes into because, like you say, you have to go full damage, otherwise Mundo's a way better tank than you, and you need to have the 1v1 ability. So very likely to be it could be mid lane as well against the Kled. It should be worth mentioning.
That's true.
Speaking to Korean mid laners and say, okay, what's the pick into Kled? Now that we're seeing Kled all over the place, the one I've heard the most is Fiora. So outside chance we'll see a Fiora come through from Jin Air. But the Renekton, you imagine, could lane pretty decently there as well in a short lane like mid. So he won't necessarily put everything down as a mid lane Swain or another mid laner come in. Outside chance, it is that mid lane Renekton.
And you can see Kingzone, they think that Renekton's going into the mid lane as well. It's double top lane bans in the GP and the Kennen, so that Jin Air don't have as many options to run against the Mundo on the top side. So Darius, GP, and Kennen, all three of the most successful picks against the champion have been taken off the board, and now 10 seconds before Jin Air can make up their mind with what to do there or which support to take.
Gnar would be another top laner if you want to take a top lane that can have a good matchup into the Mundo. Play the Rune King Gnar is what we saw earlier. All right, we got a Gragas. It's probably going to be Gragas top. The trades are pretty good. But the Gragas could be Gragas support as well. We do have a hell of a lot of flex going on the side of Jin Air. Are Kingzone just going to run a Morgana Pike lane? You do wonder.
They certainly could. I actually like the idea, you know, throw the Kled in there with a black shield, but Prey, considering heading back to the Vladimir, which he debuted, it's a pretty excellent fashion.
Yeah, honestly, his Vladimir was pretty good. Very, very late pick for him, but ended up picking it in the first game last time out. Does mean the Pyke will be a bit more risky to go for, so probably something a bit more reliable than Pyke, who really wants to have a supportive laner next to him. What about the Alistar? An old pick for Gorilla. Team already has a lot of engage. This would be a comical amount.
Well, if they were going to run the Swain on the top side, they could actually pick the classic Rise into Vladimir if Teddy wanted to pick it up again and put the Gragas in the support position.
Yeah, we have 800,000 flexes from Jin Air.
So many
it's a
options.
cool draft, honestly,
yeah.
especially given that Renekton can lane against both the Bruisers on the side of Kingzone. So they got all the information, Jin Air. How do you round this one out? Let's try and make sense of what's going on. And well, Vel'Koz would do pretty well if he doesn't get charged down instantly. So the reset of a team fight from Vel'Koz would be pretty strong. It'd be risky, though. They think about it. They say, okay, the risk is too high. It's going to be in Morgana. Most likely Morgana's support. That means Gragas top lane and probably that Renekton mid lane. But we'll get the confirmation soon.
Yeah, that's what we're expecting. Teddy Nova lane is going to be very range heavy, very wave clear heavy. To try and go up against this Vladimir. Alistar will be hard to unlock Gorilla this game in the early stages. Of course, Jin Air will have the shove down there, but the rest of the lanes, it's been all answers from Jin Air, all flexibility from Jin Air, but is it going to be enough to go up against the power picks that Kingzone were very confident whilst locking in?
I mean, Atlas, it's strong lanes and also the Kindred, who can potentially get snowballing. So you have to say, all things considered, Jin Air with a lot of flex. They had a mid lane Renekton that worked against both top and mids. They had, you know, that embarrassment of riches for a last pick on the red side, which is tricky to do against Kingzone, one of our better drafting teams traditionally. Let's just be borderline hype. We should just be on a base level, super hyped to see BDD making his big debut on the mid lane. Kled, we've seen one already. It was tempt, it wasn't great. This time, let's see how BDD can do, because we knew the Kled was coming as a reaction to the super carry Doinby game at Rift Rivals, but we also know that Kled is about timing, it's about synergy. Where's it at for Kingzone? Because you have to imagine they've been playing plenty of it.
Yeah, we've been seeing up and down charges, most definitely. As there's the Nosferatu Vladimir. Prey always trolling you, Papa Smithy, every single time. But I have to say, if the nameplates were turned off and I was just looking at both of these drafts, I'd look at Jin Air's and say, damn, I would not want to go up against that as the composition that has been put together by Kingzone. Yes, they've got a lot of priority picks, but as far as how the compositions are going to match up in the laning phase, it could be tough.
Still early game for Jin Air. That's what they're shooting for.
Well, we'll see whether they can actually win the early game or whether it's once again going to be the Teddy Fountain Laser to bring us into game one. Let's see what happens as we get there.
생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
Quiet Saturday here in the Sangam East Stadium. The stadium is sold out, but obviously people not getting here yet. For 5 p.m. is okay. Nice little Kingzone win sign there.
It's a very cute picture, but I'm not sure whose it is. As we've got Grace's family here once again. I have a feeling that they were here a couple of days ago as well, Pop Smithy.
Well, they're going to see their son play a crocodile, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah. And it's cool skin. I'm a fan of that one.
Hey, you calm down. It's 5:10 p.m. You get to rock out with your croc out. Fun times.
Yep. Oh, and I was about to say the other one, but unfortunately, it's inappropriate because BDD's also rocking out, but he's riding a chicken.
He is.
And we know what the symbol for that one is. Okay, Kingzone going to be starting off on the red side, getting themselves a bit of a leash. Same thing going to be happening on the bottom side of the map. Mirrored starts here, just like you would see in solo queue, honestly.
Haven't seen any cowbell yet, but otherwise pretty happy with how things are starting up. Level 1s have gotten interesting because the game has been about which scuttle are you angling for, and it seems like both of them are going to fight at the top lane scuttle, double warded by both sides as well, so we'll wait and check in on where the lanes are at when it comes to that topside scuttle. Kindred trying to get there as fast as possible.
Yep. Just booking it. Going to be taking that red buff first. It's Teddy and Nova trying to gather themselves some wave control. Level 1, not exactly Morgana's strong point when you don't have any sort of ability to change anything other than the lane.
Really swinging matchup between Renekton and Kled, but Renekton has the big advantage early. Umpty walks over, going to be spotted, and look at this. He's getting pretty greedy. Is this for vision or for a blue buff steal? Starting with the blue buff steal, will there be a reaction from Kled? BDD not moving yet, but definitely tending towards.
The thing that's really scary here is that lane priority certainly is there for Jin Air, so Umpty does have a bit of leeway here to get this done despite being seen. Vision not going to go down though, so he will have to stick around if anything is going to happen. You can see Songwon.
Kindred's dream. Atlas has
Yeah,
got 3
Songwon's
pushing
gonna move
lanes.
down. Easy.
Everything at the moment should be very difficult to be contested. Watching here though, Alistair's walking up. That's the unique variable. Alistair will definitely show himself in mid. Gorilla's very smart. You definitely want to walk straight through the minions and say, hey, I could come in and headbutt Pulverize, rather than actually be about having to flash but while the laning phase is going. So with all that discussion, Gorilla's showing himself and leaving bot lane actually gives the scuttle over to the side of Kingzone.
Yeah, and Prey, of course, is what we talk about with the Vladimir over and over again, is the fact that he's pretty comfortable sitting underneath the turret. It's not like you're going to get dove at level 3 anyway, so Gorilla able to get that one done. Prey once again going to be heading towards the Predator Vladimir. Stepping out of laning phase Vladimir this time. Never move, not going to find the target there from Teddy on the bottom side. So, bit of friskiness here in the mid lane, but Umpty is going to be able to grab this mark on the bottom side of the map. This first Rift Scuttler. So he's not punished too much by the fact that Gorilla did manage to get that pretty timely roam.
It still is really nice to waste the time of the Kindred when Kindred is strongest, level 2, level 3. Kindred is basically unable to be skirmished on by any other jungler. So, nice little time waste there, and not to a significant cost from Prey. Maybe 2 CS or something like that was lost because of his own timing.
Yep. Given the wave location as well, certainly was feeling pretty good.
Jin Air on the red side. This is 2 Jin Air on the red side games in a row. The games against BBQ, and now this one where win lane win game is what they've been able to set up. You'll remember that was their strategy against BBQ, and we said, wow, BBQ's draft's going to be great in the late game. Never got there because the LeBlanc and friends did well. It may be very different conceptually from LeBlanc, but this Renekton is looking to boss around the Kled in a very similar way. I agree with you in terms of the out-comp in the true 5v5 late, but they have so much priority and the sort of aggressive jungler that can play around winning lanes that you have to like what Jin Air's done. It's just about whether they can execute on it in-game.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic what Jin Air have been able to put together, and it's our 3rd example in a row of Jin Air playing for the early game, which is not necessarily their MO that they've had for so many seasons.
Which, of course, either means it's a new dawn or they won't be as good at getting advantages around their early game against a top opposition like Kingzone.
Exactly. Especially domestic opposition in Kingzone. They are extraordinarily good. Back here in Korea, Bear Trap on a Rope, though, is not a Crocodile Trap on a Rope by the looks of things. As BDD certainly struggling to keep up here in this lane. We'll be able to get back to relative CS parity. But it's a bit of a dangerous time now that Grace is heading towards that level 6 mark.
Been a couple of metas where we had Renekton mid, mostly as a counter pick, and that's what we see it as for here. The big advantage of Renekton mid compared to top lane is with the way the minion waves work and how short the lane is, his double dash is basically the entire
lane
radius, the entire lane to make an escape. So he's very, very difficult to gank, and obviously from level 6 onwards, not even worth it. Ignite mid lane Renekton is the 1v2 double kill machine if you mess up your jungle gank. So proceed with care is kind of what I'm suggesting for BDD and Peanut in dealing with the Crocodile.
Yeah, as much caution as possible. My personal favorite is Electrocute Crocodile, but I can understand the press the attack. Not going for Conqueror here is interesting, given that's what BDD's done. So extended trades is what the Kled's looking for. But just some extra damage on the side of Grace with the Renekton.
I think it was press the attack from Doinby, if I remember correctly. So.
Yeah, I think that's what he played on his Kled, but a bit of a different option here for BDD. Well,
this turret dive is going to be very successful if Grace takes aggro.
Well, he's going to jump in there. Khan does have the ultimate running. He's going to flash back under the turret. Not sure what he was trying to do, but it didn't work.
Really, really rubbish flash there. It's against Ignite Renekton, who had his flash up. There was never, ever in the whole world a chance he was going to live.
In the history of League of Legends.
It's impossible for him to live. He has a targeted stun and Ignite, though. Didn't even need to be used. By Grace, stopwatch wasn't on. That he can be frustrated about, but the flash was silly. Not going to lose too much, but he's not actually going to teleport back to lane because the minion wave's already pushing back.
Okay, so one's got a Catalyst as well. This is interesting. Could be going for a few different things, but I want Rod of Ages. I want the AP Graggy top lane to come out. It'll be a lot of AP damage as Charge is going to come into the mid lane. It's the shortest charge I've ever seen, and that's going to get a flash out of Grace.
Didn't have his ultimate. Probably would have popped ult and been alright, but it was level 6 from Peanut. She shows the respect. Talking about the build from Gragas, we are seeing some AP Gragas top lane. I believe QV and Solo Q was doing it. People are messing around with it. Just as an option there. It's usually 2 kind of AP items, then you give up. But Rod of Ages is a possibility here, Atlas, and it's double Doran's ring already. So it's definitely a lot of early game to beef up the trades before the Mundo starts to really get his items on.
Yeah, you can certainly start partying in this lane if you've got that Catalyst as well. Be a little bit more
Speaking of parties,
disrespectful as, yeah, Gorilla's coming up. He heard that there's a disco a-brewing. So he just puts down a control ward. He's on the roam though, and remember, this is exactly what he's able to do now that Prey's got a few levels. He has a lot of safety down there, even as he teleports back in. Still has the flash, Sanguine Pull, everything can sit there for about as long as he wants. And Teddy's just going to have to deal with minions underneath his turret.
Prey just missed all those CS.
Oh dear.
Well, he's got some kinks to work out on the Vladimir. Never mind.
Now, Vladimir is really difficult to get the hang of when it comes to farming, though, in my opinion.
I don't agree.
The little blood globules for your auto attack are the worst.
All right, try and make blood globules one word. I need to know what you're going to try.
Globules.
Yeah.
You knew that was going to happen.
I just wondered. To be fair, he could just use the Bloodlord skin and the auto attack animation is way better.
Hey, that's Nosferatu, man. He's a hipster. You got to let it happen. Remember, Prey's been playing League for a long time. He can do this. That's a free Drake. Going over to Umpty, Grace there, just zoning them away. Nothing Kingzone could do about it.
But Kingzone already wrote that contract. They picked basically 3 losing lanes, or you could say that Jinair flexed their way to 3 winning lanes if you want to go glass half full. That means you got to choose your battles in the early games. I think it's smart not to be overly contesting for something like an early Drake, the Cloud Drake in this case. Even these marks, so far we've seen Kingzone actually back up Peanut for them.
Yeah, Umpty's actually going to make his way over here as BDD, a lot of vision on top of him, given that Scryer's Bloom. However, Peanut will destroy the Rift Scuttler. Of course, Sejuani, a Rift Scuttle destruction queen. And Umpty is relegated, heading up here towards the top side of the map to grab the Krug camp.
The skill order, as you'll notice, same skill order we saw from Keen at Rift Rivals, is Body Slam second. Actually has 3 and 3 at the moment, so I guess he's been splitting points between the Barrel Roll and the Body Slam. Body Slam, famously, is pretty long cooldown, but it's halved if you hit an enemy unit, and thus it going down by 1 second every skill order compared to the W that no longer goes down in cooldown is pretty attractive.
Oh, Bear Trap on a rope working out really well here in the mid lane, though, as Grace does have the Dominus popped.
Oh.
Flash is still there. Lamb's Respite works perfectly, but the headbutt, and Grace is just executed. Gorilla plays it beautifully and has the level 6, but is it going to be enough? It's only rank 1. Stopwatch is there to keep him alive, but the barrel almost gets there. Umpty needs the auto flashes, doesn't get it finally. He's able to pick that one up, but has he overextended as Nova makes his way in? See you later, Kindred, but they're all underneath the turret. BDD uses the untargetability beautifully as Prey does get exhausted under this turret, but he's got himself the Sanguine Pull, and he'll get his way out. It's a fiesta, but it's a good one for Kingzone.
A really extended fiesta, but of course Prey's going to get there first. He's got Predator to come all the way to the lane. Only person who doesn't show up is the Swain, who has no ability to join it in a timely fashion. Really, really extended fight. Thought Grace was going to go down as he'd already popped his Dominus. But Umpty's in the right position, able to keep him up. Gorilla, it's his old favorite. The Alistair used to play every time it was available. Gets him out of the Lamb's Respite. They get that kill. They greed really hard, Jinair, for the Gorilla kill. He has Stopwatch. He's already pretty tanky. The first auto doesn't hit. The Q misses to begin the entire trade.
And then Wolf finishes it, yeah.
And then he has to flash in for it. Predator meant that the Vlad was going to get there, and the enemy was not. It's a bonus objective and some kills to Kingzone.
Really nicely done from Kingzone, balancing the turret dive very nicely. Nova does survive. We do have even kills in the end, but now the gold is entirely tied up, and that doesn't bode well for Jinair, who built for the laning phase, not necessarily for the team fight phase afterwards.
Build and comped for the early game certainly did Jinair, and they will get the Rift Herald on the back end. That's a nice objective to get in a bloodless sense, but as you mentioned, you're expecting the 3 to 5k gold lead at 20 minutes if you've gone for Jinair's comp, and it seems like Structure's going to have to be the way they do that. So one pushes up, he's delayed whatever his Catalyst item is going to be.
I know,
so
he won't let us know.
Probably going to be
intrigued.
magic resist, you'd have to imagine, as we're getting aggressive here, Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut's actually just going to dash over the wall there as well. Skirmisher Saber comes down, doesn't find the Winter's Wrath and may have overextended, but in comes the rest of Kingzone. Vision of Empire does get a flash, but it's a good Dark Binding. Gorilla has to use the ultimate as in goes Grace. No, does have the flash available actually. Gorilla gives himself up. So on is going to get in here. Didn't have to use the flash as the ultimate. Comes down from Peanut for the disengage. Man, that was so aggressive from the Sejuani, and he still wants more. Arctic Assault gets him out. Teddy should be able to take this Rift Scuttler, and now Rift Herald to add insult to injury to Kingzone in the mid lane.
And remember that Kingzone's wave clear is basically nil as a comp. They've got mid lane Kled, the top lane Mundo, the Vladimir. I guess if he can walk up to a minion wave, but otherwise, no true wave clear. Will Shelly get a second charge? She does!
Yeah.
Good job, Geraldine. She does it there.
Half the health bar on that turret is not insignificant as well there. As far as the inner is, okay, there's the pullback, and Prey just soaks all the damage.
Games like this are super high value Rift Heralds because both teams together have very little wave clear. That's the sort of gold that Jinair were denied by the smart rotations from Prey and Gorilla to the previous skirmish. This one heavily won by Jinair, and all because Peanut was being hella frisky.
He was ridiculously frisky.
There's one thing to dive into the walls, and there's the second thing to dive into between the inhibitor and inner turret at 11 minutes into the game.
Well, I mean, he's basically like 30 CS up, so that's a whole bunch of camps in the lead for the Sejuani, so was feeling very strong. Umpty's got a Blood Razor, though. This is very different from what we've seen. Seen a lot of Blood Razors from the Kindreds that I see in my solo queue games, but not so much in the LCK.
Definitely been Warrior because the map is shorter and you're unable to get full value out of multiple iterations of the Blood Razor. He's snowballing, so he's feeling like he can do it. Like you mentioned, he doesn't have a CS lead, but because he's playing around pressure, going for the ability to kill those neutrals faster, the Baron especially, is going to be a area that the Blood Razor over the Warrior will benefit. And
also synergizes much better with the Black Cleaver if you're going to pick that one up relatively early, which that Ruby Crystal is alluding to.
Does give some utility options there, Atlas, but my imagination is if they have 3 pressure lanes and presence across the map, a Baron around 20 minutes with this Kindred is becoming pretty possible.
Well, we'll see whether they can actually do it. Locking down Vision at the moment on the bottom side of the map. And so on, doing a decent job up here. Another argument for the AP Gragas, Papa, is trying to get more wave clear. Of course, AP Gragas was certainly wave clear options. Remember when it was in the mid lane. However, speaking of which, he's going to get ganked up towards the top side. So on does have the barrel available, but it didn't really do anything. And they're just charging underneath this turret. Khan probably didn't want to be the one tanking, but BDD didn't even need to get off Skull. It's going to be traded for an Ocean Drake, but this should be a turret going over to Kingzone, and they'll be able to even out that turret trade.
Further examination, though, is if Jinair can get the bot lane turret and end up with one extra thing, a kill for a Drake, you'll take the Drake. If you're Jinair, and honestly for Kingzone, with the scaling, maybe you'll settle for the gold. So it's all a bit of 6 and 2 threes, as my father would say. As
Thanks,
both teams are getting things, but Kingzone aren't going to be supremely unhappy with what they were able to pick up. And the one-item power spike starting to come in on the side of Kingzone. I think 2 items is where they feel a little bit more confident. The early purchases cleaner. The side of Jinair, as we get the confirmation that So1, he's just going to be a tanky boy.
It's the Abyssal Mask. How very depressing. Does help him if he body slams in, though. It does synergize very well with the shorter range now of that Abyssal Mask. So I'm okay with that. However, it's much more boring than that of the AP Gragas. It's getting tanky, though, like you say. Definitely the tanky boy. We'll see whether that's a Frozen Heart that the Glacial is going to be turning into.
All right, Jinair. This is the sort of comp that wants to put down multiple control wards and beg for a face check. Gragas Renekton will do the rest. Right now, they don't really own a part of the map, even if they're able to push up. It's Umpty. Uh-oh.
Yeah, getting dove on by BDD, but holds on to the Lambs of Spite for a long time, and I think Scarl's going to be saying goodbye. Umpty jumping over, the power of the Blood Razor on full display.
Nobody backing up BDD means that, like you say, you can get the extended chase that most of the Kindreds we've seen have been denied. Peanut is going to be bound for a moment as Khan has got to ignoring Gragas territory.
Yeah, and we all know that Khan's Mundo is an especially ignoring anyone type Mundo, as he just takes every ability from So On and straight up doesn't care. Oh, the joys of Spirit Visage first Mundo.
You do feel like Mundo and the LCK, where the meta with very few marksmen is just looking supremely broken because no one is picking champions that actually can kill the damn Mundo.
Yeah.
Gragas top, not going for Meronomicon, going full tank. Just feels like eventually the Mundo just runs at the Gragas, and like we've seen in Mundo versus Camille, Gragas has even less impact in the lane to be able to hold down a Mundo split push.
Yeah, it feels like Mundo versus almost anyone is about that, unless he can build something very early. The Darius that has had the most success.
Kennen as well.
Yeah, Kennen a bit. Still feels like he can run at the guy after a little while. Just the early laning phase, more abusable by the Kennen. He's trying to take more here. It's going to be another mark, just taken under the noses of Kingzone. It's nicely done.
Trying to work out how many marks is it. Looks like 2, Atlas.
Yeah, I believe that's a 2.
Really,
it's a very difficult one to notice as Prey. Sanguine Pool's going to have to be used.
It's not many marks, unfortunately, for Umti. 4 is when you get the 75 range. That's the sweet spot for the early game.
The dream.
Khan picks up a minion wave. Gragas doesn't have any vision in the red side jungle of Kingzone. Kind of has to happy feet around the river.
Well, Peanut's still happily farming things up. Does have a lead, about 22 still, so about 6 camps, something like that.
There's just no way for So1 to itemize for the lanes. All you can really do is build teamfight items. And your issue is that Mundo gets to build for teamfights and runs over the lane pretty frequently. So that's my worry. Question was always going to be, how much of a lead did Jin Air need with a draft like this? And the answer for now is definitely they don't have a big enough lead. Can all be answered in a minute. The Baron setup, we saw Game 1 of the SK Telecom versus Hanwha Live series yesterday, where SKT made basically every wrong choice in the first 20 minutes. And then at 22 minutes, won a team fight, got the Baron, and were able to win from there. Jin Air have been better in the early game than SKT in that game. They have a lot of Baron threat. It's all about the next 3 minutes for them to make a big move.
Once again, BDD going to be denied as he tries to take down this control ward. This time not going to be picking a fight with the Kindred, though. Peanut's looking for this bottom lane outer turret. Once again, So On trying to go aggressive, but just clears out the minion wave. And Khan just looking for a dive.
Oh my god.
Oh god. There's just no Grievous wounds, so it's just so depressing to watch. As Peanut's going to pick up the turret aggro, this could be the opportunity for So On. He's actually pretty tanky, and he's going to walk his way out. That Drunken Rage buff feels really good for the Gragas.
It's a pretty low percentage play, because at the same time, a cross-map playing is happening. Top lane with a Kindred involved, so there's going to be a lot more turret damage.
Oh, not to mention the Renekton, who just eats through turrets with his Ruthless Predator.
The crucial thing to talk about here is when they were making that play, Sejuani actually took turret aggro the second time, not the Mundo. So he had to disengage and not get the kill. Don't get the inner turret as Kingzone start to walk over, but this is a down-tempo trade against a team that picked for the early game and pushes faster. So for Kingzone, pretty big macro mistake.
Yeah. Didn't feel like the great option. However, it is going to be a 1-for-1 trade as far as those turrets is concerned. They just lose out on their topside jungle do Kingzone. So not exactly the worst, but like you say, they tried to make the play thinking it was good, and it's just straight up wasn't. As we check in with the items, we almost have that Black Cleaver done for Umti. Just goes back and gets himself the Kindle Gem. Titanic Hydra about to be completed here for Grace, who's going for a very Kled-esque build. Both BDD and himself on a very similar path.
Teddy's actually gone for a higher damage build. We usually see Zonia's second, but maybe that's only when the stopwatch is already broken. He still has the stasis effect for the next fight, but he's got the Meronomicon. So they have one application of the Grievous wounds. They don't have 2 items on everyone, but I think Jin Air, with all the control wards they picked up, definitely going to be focusing on the neutrals. The Ocean is probably going to go uncontested. The Baron, for now, going to be impossible to pick up. But Jin Air probably feeling pretty strong, and this is the time they'd be willing to 5v fight Kingzone before the item spikes really kick in.
Yeah, really good buy timing here as well for Grace, who's able to walk over to this Ocean Drake with his 2 items freshly purchased. 40 CS lead there, as well as BDD hasn't been able to get around the map as much as this Crocodile. You always feel like there is a time limit when you pick the Croc, but he's still feeling really good right now, sitting at 2 items here in the mid-game.
Prey finds a flank, Spellbinder and Protobelt for the initiation is done. So a lot of teams get picks around the brush that Jin Air just checked. Again, Drake's going unanswered does mean that perhaps at 36 minutes, Kingzone are going to be forced into a fight. Issue for Jin is, I think Kingzone wants those fights post 30 minutes. Post third item on people like the Vladimir, and we're seeing the roll in, no Vast Flash.
Yep, that's the charge, but Umti might be able to pick this one up as BDD is going to jump on top of him, but maybe has overextended. Teleport comes down from Kingzone, and Skull is just going to leave the fight. Khan may have to do the same thing as the Swain, has to try and get the Grievous Wounds on top of Khan. Grace wants more though, wants to wait for that dash, but Khan's just going to run away, successfully disengaging, using his body in the middle of the team fight.
And one of those charges that we alluded to, Atlas, from the teams who are only recently playing the mid lane Kled. You have to be so ready. Your team has to make multiple pronged attacks to actually back up the Kled, who can't disengage from that charge. End up getting a flash out of Nova, but also the Kled threat goes way down. Khan's going to find Grace. I wonder how this goes at this point.
Well, Grace is not going to let us know. He's just going to leave. Could have tried to stack up the Black Cleaver and get some work done, but when there is the Bramble Vest sitting on Khan, it is a little bit more difficult just to eat through the health bar.
When we did see Renekton versus Mundo as a Mundo Buster, it was Blade the Ruin King Renekton many moons ago, so no Blade the Ruin King, no Executioner's Calling, no realistic hope of killing the Mundo.
Auto Reminder might come in, possibly even next item if you'd like to for Grace. Probably wants to have some of the armor penetration anyway, keep himself relevant. I am looking at Umti though, and you mentioned Blade of the Ruin King. I was expecting maybe that could come in as item number 2 and have him as the Mundo killer.
Umti just desperately wants a third mark. Still sitting at 2.
Yep. Trying to kill the Kled. Meanwhile, Jinera trying to kill Mundo, which is always a difficult task. Grace is going to move over to Peanut here. Control Ward is going to survive. And the fact that this Crocodile is getting more and more scary.
Standard item is Rapid Fire Cannon, but we're not going to talk about items for a moment. Here comes Gorilla.
Yeah, Headbutt Pulve comes down. Another charge comes in here as Grace is able to dance with the arrows to get his way out. And so on. Does get the ultimate, but BDD is going to get over that wall. No worries. Khan is going to land. Oh, ultimate will be necessary here from Umti, but just decides that he's not going to use it. Lamb's Respite just stays off cooldown. He knew that he wasn't going to survive anyway. Okay, someone's going to body slam his way in and out at the same time and has to flash to get himself over. I still think he hasn't done enough work. Body slam gets the reset though. With all those extra points, he is able to survive. Khan standing underneath the turrets, but the rest of the team not so lucky. And Grace, he's going to split push.
Long cooldown on the Lamb's Respite. Umti doesn't use it because the call is that Renekton wants to split push and just fully disengage. Holds on to the teamfight utility. They get an inner turret. It's another one of those one-for-ones that you probably take if you're Jin Greenwings.
Yeah, I actually really like the holding on to the Lamb's Respite. Like you say, until you've got a few points in it, it is very, very long cooldown. Understanding that it wasn't going to save his life, just prolong the inevitable. No one else died, so not a bad move there at all. It's not necessarily like Umti to hold on to cooldowns like that. He's not that level of finesse player generally, so really good to see some growth.
He's a sick outplayers player rather than the macro jungle, and it's nice to have players like Umti and Peanut. We don't have too many hot-headed junglers, and they're usually the ones that go big and go home.
Yep. If I've got a button that I can use, I'm going to use it, those players.
Turns out the days of Insect are sadly a long way behind us.
Was his last game that one for R&B when they used their entire B squad and played Master Yi? I think
no, he played further games.
Oh, yes, and it was like Shaco.
He was on the Challenger roster, Challenger roster in the LSPL for a season, but no longer because the LDL, the replacement of the LSPL, the Chinese Challenger League, I guess we would describe it, doesn't allow imports anymore. It's China.
Oh, wow. Didn't actually hear about that.
A lot of Korean talent was parked there for a long time. The upside of that for Korea is that the Challenger League got a lot more players. You know, I'm sure a team like Griffin would have been ripped apart much earlier if the talent could be parked in the Chinese secondary league, but with all the changes, does mean we have some promising players coming through from Challengers Korea.
Yeah, as you can see, with Griffin's phenomenal performance thus far. Umti is having a look at Baron, but not going to be able to solo it. That's definitely the truth. Peanut's going to jump over. They do know that this control ward is here. BDD's tried to kill it about 6 times. Grace will get himself out. Jin are actually posturing here towards the top side.
And Jin are not really winning at the moment. I know the numbers are bigger. I know it seems like they've had control, and they have. They've made the right movements, but we've already said so many times, this comp needs to get a game-winning advantage 20 to 30 minutes. It's not a criticism. We're in a meta where the game is decided at 22 minutes almost every time. Just ask SKT losing 2 games to China at 22 minutes exactly. Jin need a Baron. That's the game breaker for them here. A Baron with the siege they have from the Kindred and basically no wave clear on the enemy side is what they want, and killing a Smite will be a great way to do it.
Yeah, Umti actually, once again, going to hold back. Did want to get that third proc. Didn't actually get there. Reserved play on the side of Jin. Umti not generally the one to demonstrate that.
Teddy doing Teddy things farm-wise.
Certainly. A whole host of farm here as Khan's going to take a lot of damage. Can they actually do anything relevant here? He's sitting on the sadism, doesn't want to use it while Grievous Wounds was active, and straight up doesn't really care about his health bar because he's got a Warmogs.
Flashes down on Prey and Gorilla. Well-timed barrel here, could potentially get a couple of picks. Setting up for the Infernal. Could be 5 Drake spawns this game even before the Elder.
Could be. Kingzone have a great position to the first really pivotal dragon of the game, so don't want to let Jin get a 4th Drake and of course get even 1 Infernal Drake.
Want to see a game-breaking play. If you're going to play this top lane Gragas into Mundo, you knew the lane eventually would hurt. Umti's actually the one to go in aggressive first, but so on. It's all about the barrel here for me.
Yeah, he's been looking for these 3rd hits, but hasn't found them a lot as Teddy lands another Never move. Just doesn't really do very much damage. Remember, this isn't like his Rise. It doesn't have that really huge damage cap. It's a Swain. He wants to get, work done zoning. Try and create room for the rest of the damage dealers on his team, and it's all about Umti really pumping out consistent damage in this fight from a good position as Jin have started the fight once again, and Khan getting taken down dangerously low. Stopwatch is there, but not healing him for that much given the Grievous Wounds that is on top. Gorilla is going to jump in. It's a decent pulverize, and we've got crazy amounts of chaos in the middle of the fight. So Soul Shackles breaks up Kingzone, and Khan once again taking the brunt of the damage. Charge just to get out, and Jin may have gotten themselves a dragon in amongst it.
And the now or never time for Jin. They pull it off. Nova was the star there with, I believe, a 5-man Soul Shackles to continue to zone, and so much zone with the Swain and the Morgana. They take the Infernal, and do Jin fully disengage? The answer seems maybe, because the Baron is once again going to be the primary objective for them, and all Peanut can do is get a bit of control around it for Kingzone.
One of my all-time favorite Morgana builds with this one is, let's have a look at it again. Watch him flash in with the Zhonyas.
And they want to zone away the backline here. The first zone is going to be Swain popping the ultimate, but watch Nova getting, I believe, 4 or 5 man on the ultimate there. It didn't register or not, but it didn't need to. It bought the space. The support champion alone bought the space. They eventually force out a defensive charge. Now the win towards Jin. Again, they inch forward, but the inches all together have coalesced in just 3,000 gold. The 4 Drakes are nice, but I think by the time the Elder Dragon becomes relevant, Kingzone's teamfight comp is going to be ready to go.
Well, we'll see whether they can get it online in time. Umti, it looks like he isn't going for the Blade of the Ruined King like I was, musing over.
Oh.
I wanted to find it.
Poor Cled.
Yeah, it didn't really get very much work done there. That's what happens when you charge the wrong direction. As Gorilla's going to get pulled back. Never moved pretty damn good. But just uses the ultimate, and that is another tool Kingzone will have to wait for. This means that vision control will certainly be in the advantage of Jin.
But they have waves to attend to, and that's kind of the awkward thing for them here. The moment the Renekton shows, you're not actually getting much value out of the double control ward. Blue buff was taken by Khan, and they can't kill him.
Yeah. He's just trying to be a menace. Succeeding. He's spending some time down here, though, as Kingzone utilize that opportunity to try and jump onto this Baron and get some vision. Grace gets stunned up.
They were actually
not able to move out.
3 stacks of control wards, so they're very easily replaced. They didn't have their side waves in order, so they couldn't actually get much value out of the first load. As they get the Smite out of Peanut as well. Does have another stack, but slowly getting these resources. Umti's on the charge.
Yeah, Stolen's actually looking for Khan here as well, who gets knocked into the wall, but that is not what they wanted. That was so close to booping the Mundo back into the team, but unsuccessful. They've been really focusing on Khan with a lot of their damage. They know that they really want to get him out of the front line of the fight. The rest of the Kingzone members a little bit too easy to disengage from them. As okay, the charge is going to jump down onto Teddy. Could be in trouble, but Zhonya's comes in. Demonic Ascension already there as well, and getting a lot of work done. Hemo Plague comes down. Teddy gets his way over the wall, but Jin Air look to have successfully disengaged, and the Swain grabs the kill. So1 jumps forward. They want Khan yet again, and Umti has found him. Red buff is on. He's getting slowed down. Meanwhile, the fight is happening on the top side as well. Khan will fall down, and Peanut is just body blocking for the rest of the Kingzone members, but Jin Air, they found their fight.
And Teddy's so used to positioning against his Kled. 2 games in a row, he's happy to be in the front. He had his stasis, he had the black shield. They win that fight very handedly. They get the inner turret, and what more can Jin Air get during these death timers?
Yeah, well, they're looking for the inhibitor turret first. Remember, they've got a lot of damage on these structures, and they're even able to break the base in 2 places. This could be back-to-back Jin Air versus Kingzone games where Jin Air get up in game number 1. Remember, this was a team 0-8 before the start of this week. After that one victory over BBQ, looking much better, much cleaner now in this game than what we saw from them 2 days ago.
And Kingzone don't look practiced on the mid lane Kled, you'd have to say. The counter pick, how many games have we seen? How many games has BDD played of Renekton versus Kled? Probably close to 2 or 3, maybe none. Is the reality of that. The turn happens here.
Yep, another team fight is going to come in as Gorilla getting taken down so low. Unbreakable Will might actually be breakable here as he is going to get himself out. Remember, there's no spellbook, nothing like that. Gorilla will have to go all the way back to base and clippity-clop his way back towards this Baron pit, but Jin Air don't look to be starting it as there's a huge wave bottom lane.
And there's also a huge amount of gold in the inventory, about 10,000 here for Jin Air, so they want to fully disengage, but someone needs to stay. And someone needs to answer the waves you already alluded to. So a macro decision to be made. So one walks over. He's got the teleport. See how the purchases will look. We're going to get the replay. This is what happened for Teddy when he played against BBQ, against a Kled. He just stays away from his team. He's got the ability to not die instantly. The ultimate from the Sejuani is used on just Nova, which seems like a waste, to be honest. And from there, it's 5v4, and Jin Air control the fight.
Yeah. And Khan got split off, and Umti just able to chase after for as long as he wants, utilizing that red buff. Was then able to go back and get a whole lot of work done. That got him an extra mark as well, which is probably why they were focusing on the Mundo, because he was being a little bit starved of those. He's up to 5 now, so does have the extra range from the first 4 that you were talking about earlier. Binding's going to land, and Baron's going to get some of the work done here for Nova onto Peanut, but the passive is going to help him take next to no damage.
And we should talk about what we saw from Doinby, what his hard carry looked like, because, you know, Kled is not a champion that's been explored very much. Yeah. If he gets ahead in lane, he can beat tanks, but the reason why it was so powerful against Kingzone was he was assassinating a backline. He was getting on to Prey again and again and killing him. Consider that Jin Air's backline, I guess it's Umti, the jungler, who has the ability to live a lot longer. Speaking of living a long time.
Yep, Peanut not going to be doing so as that barrel was beautiful. Grace is going to pick up the kill, but that was all about So1, who's looking to try and get himself back from the call on the bad KDA. Baron looks like an opportunity now as Teddy throws down Demonic Ascension just to get rid of the other members of Kingzone.
It's a nice tool for Kingzone to pick up for this Baron contest. They have no smite, have no ability to move over to smite. They need to fight. Where's the charge?
Well, there's going to be a lot of health missing on this Baron buff. We'll see whether the turn does come in as Umti gets himself into the middle of the fight. Oh no, Prey has to use Sanguine Pool very early in this battle as the Lamb's Respite is in there, and Umti's surviving for so long. Vladimir just taken down. No pull, no worries for Jin Air as BDD gets eradicated from the fight. Gorilla comes in with a headbutt pulve to get rid of the Morgana, but this is a desperation play at best from Kingzone, and Jin Air will get the Baron. Or will they?
They will not. He's able to buy enough time there. They got 2 inhibitors down, so they had a lot of delay. There would have been minions pushing him. There's no damage left to kill at Atlas, so the eulogy for the Baron. She's going to live a little bit longer. Don't worry, Baron. You got this. Really long extended fight. That was the emergency contest by Kingzone, but they give over. Again, another load of gold to the side of Jin Air, and we're no closer to seeing those team fights actually pop off because their execution has not been good enough.
No, straight up. And it's all been a bit all over the place as well. You know, Peanut gets caught out there. You don't get to see any of the teamfight prowess that Kingzone have for themselves.
And someone needs to come kill these minions. Thankfully, Prey is respawn and has teleport.
Well, Jin Air are looking for this 4-Drake Elder, which is also worth contesting as Peanut pops himself over. Umti's hunting him now.
Jin Air's actually lucky that the Infernal was taken so late because it means the Elder is spawning at 36 minutes and not at 40 or 41. They weren't able to get that 5th Drake stack, but now Peanut's just looking for a very speculative steal.
Yeah, well, he's going to be able to get in there, but it's at not smite range at the moment. That's another free mark going over to the Kindred, not to mention another jungler missing and another big buff for Jin-Air.
Such a low percentage move from Peanut. Terrible move from him because he gives up his smite as well. The Baron's still on the Rift, and now it's free.
Yep. Jin-Air will just move their way over to it. They'll burn it down with the extra on-hit damage as well. And with 2 inhibitors down, nothing that Kingzone can do. I don't even know whether their composition is going to be able to batten down the hatches and clear out these waves, because you've mentioned already that their wave clear is abysmal.
Some of the communication also, we saw the Alistar walking up. You have to wait for your Alistar to put down a control ward, then judge the situation. You can't go in with incomplete information when there's also the smite on the top side. If you wait for the Alistar to come in, he puts down the control ward and the Elder's already dead, that's fine. You did the right thing. You went for basically a 5% steal chance at best and looks silly doing it.
Yeah. Well, Jin-Air are looking real good. With this composition that was all about the early game, the mid game, strong lanes, they've transitioned into late game fighting and pick potential so beautifully. And I have to say, hats off to Sowan. This Gragas play is what we wanted out of Keen when we first saw it at Rift Rivals.
He hasn't been fantastic, but the thing about Gragas ult is it's very similar to Blitzcrank Hook. One and you might win the game from it. The one onto Peanut was the one that really allowed the cascading buffs and kills to go to the side of Jin-Air. Now Jin-Air are one team fight away, maybe even some kills away from just straight up ending the game.
Well, Binding is going to be searching for that pick once again. Jin-Air knocking on the front door. Inhibitors have respawned. Kingzone just trying to hold on desperately to their base. Inner turret is remaining on the bottom side, but that wave is pushing forward for Jin-Air, and they just want to take these open inhibs. They'll just move themselves in, park themselves with their Baroned up minions.
So much damage now as well. Doesn't matter about scaling when you have a 4-stack Elder.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Not to mention the fact that Grace has built full damage. Steric's there, his only defensive option. He's got a GA, he's feeling real good. Doesn't even have to hit these Nexus turrets because they've got triple siege minion beating down on them, and Gorilla, not a whole lot he can do. They're going to start the fight once again, but Kingzone are already melting. Good God, is that a tanky Mundo? I don't think so, as Jin-Air just eat through the Kingzone lineup. The Nexus will get taken out as well, and once again, Jin-Air are victorious in Game 1.
Jin-Air do exactly what they need to do, and Kingzone make mistakes. So in the end, Jin-Air pretty comfortably the victors here over Kingzone DragonX in game number 1. Like we've mentioned a couple of times, they did this in the first round robins, their second game win over Kingzone DragonX, but a match victory, a second Glad plane on the week would be the sort of uptick that they need to find any chance of getting out of relegation. Currently, 8th spot is SK Telecom T1, is the collection of teams around 3 match wins. Jin-Air still at 1. They need to find any they can, as there's only 9 matches remaining for them.
Yeah, to try and catch up to MVP isn't really a difficult ask. To catch up to SKT, like you mentioned, not as difficult either. For now, yes, exactly. If SKT are able to take down their next few opponents, they should be able to get work done, and they have looked better in Rift Rivals. But Kingzone, man, they have to go back to the drawing board. This time around, it wasn't Cuz playing Game 1. This was Peanut. This was their theoretical best lineup. We'll see whether bringing Cuz in now, if they decide to do it, is going to help out, or whether Peanut wants round 2 against Umpty.
And they also need not a half-baked draft, because the draft itself can win, but you need to be able to be playing it at the top and not make mistakes. And then their execution on what they had was poor, and there were just some individual mistakes from Peanut that also hurt them. And the moment you say both those things against a team that had comped for the early game, you've given up a lot, Jin-Air have their items, and then you're making mistakes and not using your comp well, then you just lose.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Have to say that Jin-Air did play their composition very, very nicely, understood their power windows, and executed on it very, very well. They have to do it again in game number 2, or game number 3 if Kingzone are going to bring us there. And if history has taught us anything, it's that Kingzone certainly can. Having a look at the damage, the Mundo did a fair bit, but damn, Teddy's still able to eke out everything that he wants on the Swain.
Weren't really any passengers on the side of Jin-Air. Nova had a match-winning moment with his big flash ult.
Yeah.
I thought Grace was very good. The barrel play from the Gragas was what got them the pick, and Umpty had a day out on an aggressive jungler. Last time it was Nidalee into Cuz's Graves. This time it's the Kindred. We thought we'd see 2 aggressive junglers, but We saw Kingzone first pick the Sejuani, and the Sejuani did not find the impact they were looking for.
Yeah, it's not what we really want to see when it comes to Peanut playing junglers either. We want to see him on the Nidalee. We want to see him making the proactive, aggressive moves. It hasn't been the guy that we've seen so far on the Rift for Kingzone DragonX in recent weeks. But we'll see whether it comes back in game number 2. Umti, you know that he wants to start taking some names once again when we move into our next match. And guys, it will be a short break, and then all of the questions, it's all up in the air, because is this time for the Kingzone tumble? They didn't tumble against MVP. Will they against Jin Air after the break?